Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Heart of CX. I'm Joanna Palmer, and hey, Max Ball, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Joanna?
I am doing well.
What do you want to talk
So,
about today?
I was thinking, let's talk social media.
Yes.
I know, right? So exciting. And I've got to tell you, looking at, statistics on average, a person's on social media 2 hours and 24 minutes a day.
Oof.
I know. It's a bit shameful. And sometimes I look at my, how on the iPhone it shows you your weekly activity, and on average, this is
Mhm.
how long you've spent on your phone, and this is how long you spent on social media. And then you feel shameful that you wasted that much time on
Right, right. All the things you could have done with that time.
Exactly. And then another interesting stat I had read is that on average, people are engaged on 8 different social media platforms. I'm like, way. There's no way I am engaged on 8 different social media platforms. Then I start counting up the apps, and, I would say I'm right up there with that. What about you, Max? What about your
I
social media life?
I've been thinking about this, and some of it depends on definition. I think I'm way short if it's just traditional ones. Because I don't do Instagram, Snapchat. There's a lot of them that I don't do, but uh, like the Apple News app.
Oh,
I'm on
yeah.
that. Is that social media? I'm not really putting anything out there, but it's sure a sinkhole of time on my phone. I can tell you that
Right.
much. So I I don't know that I hit 8, but if you define things right, I probably get pretty close, and certainly I the 2.5 hours. I'm there with that, unfortunately or fortunately.
Yes, for sure. So,
So,
as
what
we
about
think about social media and how much it's infiltrated people's lives, it's also important to think about it from a company perspective, both from a marketing perspective, which seems very natural, as well as a customer service perspective. And how do you leverage and utilize social media from that customer service perspective? It's a channel that you certainly cannot ignore in your contact center. Um, do you have any examples of when you've engaged with companies
Yes,
socially?
yes, I do. I have one of the most unlikely places, and just it was fascinating what they did. So I have a swimming pool and a hot tub, and one day uh, I went to turn on the hot tub and I couldn't connect. It's now, we bought a new pool pump like 2 3 years ago, so real speed, it's much more efficient, and now there's a Wi-Fi connection, and you actually have an app on your phone. So you go to the app and you turn things on. It's awesome. I'm at a not that I ever go to a party anymore, but if I was at a party, I'm leaving the party. It's like, oh, let's go get in the hot tub when we get home. You can turn it on; it'll be hot by the time you get. It's awesome. Um, and I went to turn on the hot tub, and I couldn't connect. It wasn't there, and I had a way I could do it manually, so I just did it manually, and I didn't think twice about it. That I just assumed the home network was flaky. And the next day, I was doing something, and I still couldn't connect, and that's when I started to wonder. So I actually went out on Twitter, and there I found a couple of people saying, I'm having trouble connecting to my pool pump. So I tweeted, say, help! I'm here too. I can't get a hold of it. What's going on? And they started responding, and well, before that, it started to get ugly. For me, it was no big deal. I could manually do it. It was inconvenient, but that's fine. But there were people, like one guy had a rental, and the only way at the rental they could turn things on or off was through that app. And the tenant had turned on the hot tub. It was somewhere in a ski area, and they weren't going to be able to turn it off until the app came back. So this
Oh,
guy was
no.
paying
No.
heating for, yeah, just, and he was like, I hope they're going to pay me for my bill, my gas
Oh,
bill to heat this thing. And, you know, pretty quickly though, the company showed up and, we're having trouble. We're working on it. We'll let you know. And then, and I chimed in at some point, and then about a half hour later, or an hour later, separately from the corporate account, I got something from a woman who worked at the company say, we're so sorry about this problem. Here's, and gave me a lot more detail on what was going on. And then, reached out to me twice a day. This went on for, I don't know, 2.5 days or so. And she reached out to me twice a day, saying, really sorry, we're still working on it. How are you doing? Is everything okay? And when it was all over, she reached out to me and said, I'd really like to talk to you about this. We'd love to get your input. Could we do a phone call?
mhm.
So, and it was like a week later, so it wasn't urgent or anything. Things were working again, but she, I was on my commute home and we chatted, and she, this is what I experienced, and oh, we really appreciate your feedback. And I don't think I gave them anything that they could use to change anything, but and they, when things got fixed, they sent messages out, hey, everything's great. This is what happened. And then the final thing was about 2 weeks later, I got a swag thing. I got some towels and a
Oh,
little
very cool.
floaty, and yeah, and all with their logo. So, and I'm a big fan of this company, so much so that I won't name their name because she begged me not to when I ever talked about it publicly. Um, but think about this. This is a pool pump company. This is as old school as it gets. They had
Right.
a cloud hosting problem. The thing that was causing the communications was they did an upgrade to the software, and something horrible happened, and all the systems couldn't communicate. So this pool pump company had a cloud hosting problem that they managed with their customers through social media. So it's like, don't tell me I'm an old school industry. I this stuff doesn't matter to me. It just, so I love this because A, it was a wonderful example of how well they handled it. And B, it's a great example of you can't get away from it.
Yes, yes, and you know what I love about that story? Number 1, that they were transparent on social media, that they were transparent with you. They provided updates, they provided customer expectation, as well as afterwards going that little extra way, sending something that was relevant, right? Sending,
Right, right,
floaties and towels, and how fun is that? I love that, that unexpected little piece of, you're important to us, and we've gotten through this, and now let's have fun in the pool. I love that story, and I think that that's great. I think that that shows a lot of different highlights and points on really what are those best practices for social media engagement. Number one, they saw that issue online, they saw it bubbling up. There was definitely a trend there where it was impacting more than just a few customers, and so providing those updates and being transparent through the social media channels was absolutely critical. Now, if this was a one-off issue and it was something where, let's say, uh, you had a flight issue, your flight was delayed or whatever, and you're reaching out on social media, then I think direct messaging definitely makes more sense there. And I do love that they use that in some of their communication strategy here of reaching out to you one on one as well, making sure that you felt heard and
right,
that,
right. Yeah,
that
that made a big difference to me. You're exactly right.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so that is absolutely important, making sure that you've got that one-on-one communication rather than the one to many at all times. But I think here one of the important things to highlight here, and I see a lot of times a trend happening with companies where every single interaction ends up with DM us and we'll take care of the issue. DM us and we'll take care of the issue. And as an outsider looking in at that point, I always wonder, was that issue really resolved?
Right,
You
right.
know,
Yeah,
it,
yeah. Where's the ending?
it,
Where's the credits?
exactly, exactly. And I think it's important and it's an opportunity for companies to go back and close that loop to ensure that all of those watchers out there know that there was an ending, that it was a happy ending, that issues got resolved. And whether the customer does that or the company does that, just showing that issue has been resolved. I think that's important. And those outsiders looking in that could be potential buyers
Right.
see that you're engaged, that you're focusing on the customer experience, that you are handling those customers, which could ultimately drive revenue for the company, seeing that you're
Yeah.
taking care of the issues.
That's a great point because in this case, I was so happy. Um, they sent something out saying, we fixed it, yay, blah blah blah, and I was so happy. I, of my own accord, said, wow, this was great. So glad to see things are working again. Really appreciate all the support I got. And you're right. If I'm thinking pool pumps and I've got company A and company B, and I see all that chatter on company B, I'm going to go on company B. Whereas if it ended with "we're going to DM you, you have a bad problem," now I'm kind of like, I don't know that I want to talk to
Right,
those guys. Yeah, it's the exact
right.
opposite side of the coin.
Yep, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I do love that story, and definitely that I love that it was old school. It was something old school that was modern and
Right,
relevant.
right.
So great example there, great story. Um, there's so much more to talk about with social media, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks,
Uh,
Joanna. It was a good chat.
thanks,
Talk to you
Max.
soon.